When Jinx Brew first opened, and I was getting a lot of work done here because we were just killing time, you know, I'd just sit for a few hours just because no one had anything else to do.
Just imagine, you know, you go to work. I don't know, Mike seemed like you were ready to kill time just for getting a tattoo every day.
Yeah, well, I mean, when they first opened up, you know, they had a lot of ads in city paper. And then at shows, we would have their ads on, we'd have flyers on our merch table.
Right.
But kids, hardcore kids weren't really getting tattoos all that much. I was lucky enough that these guys would work on me, and, you know, so I'd be here, get tattooed a lot, and then go on tour, come home, get tattooed a lot.
What was your introduction to the Cure? Like, when did you first see them? When did you first hear them?
My older sister, I had an older sister, and she actually went to the same school as the guys in Minor Threat. And she was into all this cool underground music. And so she got me into The Cure and Susie and the Banshees and Bauhaus. So there's all this like British new wave. But I always listened to The Cure. That was the one thing. So I've been listening to The Cure since, you know, I was really young. I mean, I might have been like 10 or 11. You know, when we started doing Damnation, that record had like this vibe that always stayed with me because it was so dark. And lyrically too, lyrically, the mood, and that was always a backdrop. As I learned to play guitar, a lot of the elements that The Cure is probably the most influential for me as a musician, because all the layering that they do with the guitars, that's what I would do with my writing. The idea to do the Cure record, and specifically Pornography, it definitely originated with the beginning of the band. It was a pretty influential band for me as a guitar player and as a writer. And when Mike and I started doing Damnation, it was just a project with the two of us. And the beginning was a lot of noisecore type of songs. The first couple EPs were just very noisy. But I realized that the Cure, and especially certain albums and the style, would lend themselves towards what Damnation was doing. The vision, it wouldn't have worked with, let's say, Worlds Collide or whatever I was doing before that, but Damnation had the right vibe, you know, especially for Pornography. And I think that's, you know, once we covered that song Cold, we realized that particular album and the songs on it would lend themselves perfectly to what Damnation was doing already. Because basically we just translate the keyboards into guitar sounds, and the lyrics are perfect for, you know, the same vibe that Damnation was on. So
yeah, I think, you know, for him musically, it would be the same for me lyrically. I can relate to the darkness that he felt when he was writing those lyrics, and using words that I could have never used. I never found myself, but I found so much comfort in them. And, you know, things that I've felt my whole life that I could never describe myself. And part of the whole reason I found a lot of comfort in doing Damnation is because I could write about things that I never felt comfortable talking to people about. And this, especially Pornography, hit the really dark places that I've been, that I would never just say to someone like, hey, this is how I feel. And so that's why it's really important to me lyrically, because it really touches on hopelessness and feeling invalid, and just that you don't matter at all. It was Ken's idea originally. Just like with everything Damnation, he is such a leader, and I trust his vision on everything we've ever done. I yell when he tells me to yell. He is the visionary of what we want to do, and in my mind, there's no doubt about that. You know,
I had the idea to try covering The Cure, and then in '93 we did the one song still as a project. It was just the two of us, and Mike sang it. So it was sort of, you know, that was sort of like the test to hear what it would sound like. So in my head, I have different ideas. I can hear things. Sometimes when we go as a band and do a song as a test or a concept, some things work like I imagined, some things they work better than I imagined, and sometimes it didn't work like I imagined. Because in my head, I'm hearing everything exactly one way, but as you bring, different band members in, the production, also the energy that day, because that was the one thing that was really played a really important role in this album, doing the Pornography album completely, is the energy. We've tried to get at it a few different times, but the energy wasn't right. When you're recording a record, especially the drums, that's sort of a very lengthy part of the studio process, and if that first part doesn't sound right, it won't matter what you put on top of it. And sometimes something very small, like you can go in with the same riffs, same band members, same ideas. It's just being patient enough with yourself and also with sort of all the stars lining up to get to where you kind of dreamed it could get to, versus just settling and putting a record in the bag. So when Damnation started really was the end of the Worlds Collide tour in '93. Our last show brought us to Atlanta, and we stopped at our friend Issa's studio down there, Sleepless Nights, and which is accurate name. And we actually tracked the first 2 Damnation EPs, which was 4 songs. It was just Mike and I doing everything. And then we did Cold. And Cold was, again, like a vision, knowing that The Cure and that particular song and that album had the right vibe. So we tracked that. I actually played the drums for the whole album, but that was the only song we finished. And so Cold ended up coming out on a split 7-inch and a hardcore compilation at the time, which both came out in, I think, like '94. But that was the first time that we knew that sort of Cure vibe was the right vibe,
Yeah, I think through the rest of the band, if you listen to all the records, it might not be as noticeable in all the songs, but you could definitely feel it, whether it's musically, lyrically, whatever, because I know I can go back to each record and pinpoint where, this specifically was, I wouldn't say ripped off, but very inspired by, just because I'd be like, wow, that is exactly how I'm feeling. Like, he nailed it.
It was the first time we realized that the themes from that record we could basically apply to Damnation as a whole. And I think it was an important sort of test and also realization as we started to do this new record, which is sort of like a 360 from back then, to realize that actually elements from Pornography, from musically and I think like atmospherically, were in Damnation that whole time. So basically our first studio session, or we did a demo, our first real studio session was us doing our version of Pornography and that song specifically, Cold. But then all these years, there's elements of that in all of our recordings, all of our songs. And then here we are doing the whole album finally, which is something we had set out to do in the first session. And we ended up doing actual new records in the meantime. But I mean, it was a long time in the making.
Yeah, it's kind of, in terms of the length of time, this summer, so a few months from now will be 30 years since I first met Ken. So it just, when you look at that time frame, how many friendships or have lasted that long, and we've have very different lives coming in and out of each other's lives now, but to feel like we met 30 years ago and then the band has been 20 something years, it's pretty it's an intense thought sometimes when you think about it, because how many people are lucky to say, hey, I've known this person for that long, or I've had friends for this long, and not very many people. So that's where one of the things where this is like an achievement almost, since this was one of the first things we ever worked on together, where before I was just a roadie, and then he was like, well, let's try something different. Let's try to Originally, we were gonna try to do a straight edge band. I remember he wanted to do a straight edge band that was heavier than Judge.
Right.
You know, both of us are still straight edge, and you know, we still.
Right, since then till now.
I think it. You know, we didn't. You know, we realized the straight edge aspect. We weren't ever gonna write about it. So that wasn't as important as just playing with people we were friends with and we got along with well. So the straight edge aspect didn't matter, but you know, yeah. So almost 30 years later, you know, we're still friends and
we still play sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, we played shows recently, so it's pretty cool. And then, you know, we have a new record that we can put out. I mean, that actually, you know, we're satisfied with, which is, you know, pretty unbelievable. You got the kind of look-alike tattoo on you.
Yes.
Did you ever hear that story?
No.
Back in the early 90s, you know, I won a Robert Smith look-alike contest.
What? Are there photos?
Oh yeah. So one of my buddies had gone to this record giveaway show, and he had come back and he was like, "Man, look at all this stuff." I had said, "Nah, I'm too tired. I'm not going." And he had come back with like bags of free stuff. So I vowed the next time I had any opportunity to go to one of these 930 Club things, I was going to do it. So lo and behold, you know, about a month later, here they're going to do another one. It's for a Cure record. That when the Cure released that Mixed Up album, they're doing this big record release thing. I was like, oh man, the Cure! I'm gonna win everything because I'm sitting here thinking I know everything about this band. It's my favorite band ever. So we get down there. It's me and Issa from Good Click Fun. We get down there. And we get in there, and everyone in the place looks exactly like Robert Smith. I mean, look like it's like me and Issa, and I'm coming straight from. I've worked at the CD shop, so I'm wearing like
Sam Goody.
yeah, I think it was Sam Goody. I'm wearing like khaki pants and a button-up shirt and some. You know, I mean, you have to look kind of. You know, that was like the dress code or whatever. So I didn't even have time to change. I came straight from work, and Issa looks like he always looks. So we're standing there. Everyone around us is in the Cure, basically. And then I'm like, all right, well, whatever. These guys all got the look, but I freaking got the knowledge, right? So the DJ starts asking these questions, like, okay, will the first person who knows what kind of hair gel Robert Smith uses come up and win, whatever. And so I'm like, what the hell? You know, they're not asking any, like, musical questions or tell me about this lyric or... It's all like weird, you know.
Fanboy.
Yeah. And so we're there for a while. And so, you know, they'll play a song or two and then they'll ask a question. Everyone around me's winning. I haven't won anything. And finally I'm like, Issa, this is some BS. We gotta get out of here. I mean, listen to these questions. This isn't real Cure stuff. I was like, you know, it was corny fan stuff. So then, right as we're getting ready to leave, the DJ stops, you know, music goes down. He's like, okay. First time they ask any question that isn't, you know, specifically related to the Cure, he says the first person to come up here who's wearing mismatching socks wins, you know, whatever CDs. Issa looks down, he's like, hey, that's me! I was like, and then that made me even more like, you know, I was like, this guy's winning? You know, I can't, now I gotta figure something out. So now I looked at the DJ, this black guy up at the DJ booth. I said, all right, let me go into the well. I gotta come up with something. So I go up into that DJ booth while the music's playing, and I just quietly say, like, if you're him, I'm like, hey man, I'm like, listen, why don't you just like give me like a CD or two? Because the thing I'm leaving out is the big grand finale contest is the Robert Smith lookalike contest. It's like the last thing they're gonna do of the night. Whoever wins that is winning just bags and bags of Cure stuff. And so I've been there 2 hours, haven't won anything. Issa's winning stuff with his socks. So I was like, so I go up to this. I'm like, hey man, listen, why don't you just give me like a CD or something? I know you got, you know, because up in that DJ booth, it's just all this stuff that their label has dropped off to give away. So I'm just like, this guy's gonna give me a CD. Just let me say something to get him to want to get me out of his hair, you know? Like, man, let me just get one of these CDs real quick, because, you know, that Robert Smith lookalike contest is kind of racist. You know what I mean? But it's like the music, you know, I'm kind of like in his ear, like, kind of quiet. I'm like, come on, man, you know, hook a brother up. And he looks at me. He was cool, you know, he was cool. And then he looks at me and gets real serious. He's like, just because the premise of the contest is racist doesn't mean the judges will be. And then I was like, what the hell
does that mean? I was like, this guy's not gonna give me. I mean, there's like 100 CDs. So I was like, you're not gonna give me that EP. There's an EP right there. You can just put it in my hand. I'm gonna get out of here and say, feel like I did something. The guy straight up, like, I didn't even know what that meant. I was like, that's the crazy. I was like, I know what Robert Smith looks like. So I mean, what are you talking about? I don't look like Robert Smith. I'm never gonna look like Robert Smith. So, go back to East. Music's blaring. Hang out till the end of the song, and then I'm like, all right, we're not gonna win anything. This guy's, this thing's happening. I'm not gonna win anything. Yeah, East is right. I'm not gonna win anything. You won your CD. Get the hell out of here. We start walking out that long hallway. You remember the long hallway on the 930 Club F Street. As we're going through the second set of doors, the guy's announcing the contest, and then he's like, "Where's the guy?" He starts calling me out from the DJ booth. He's like, "Where's the guy who said the contest was racist?" And we're like halfway out the building. I heard that. I was like, "Oh man, I can't believe this guy's doing this." I was like, not only is he not giving me the CD, he's calling me out. Then I was like, all right, I'm doing this. I turn around and walk right through the door and go right up on the stage. And there's like 4 guys already up there, look just like Robert Smith. It's like 4 guys they could be in the. You saw these guys on the street, you'd be asking for the autograph. Robert, man, let me get your autograph. So then when I got up there, there's all the crowd, there's a few 400 or 500 people there. When I get up there, everybody starts laughing because, I don't look like any of these other guys. And then the DJ's like, the DJ goes, this guy thought we said Arsenio Hall looked like which I had a flat top, so I can't even freaking. I was like, all right, whatever, man, whatever. I'm up here. So now at least I didn't let this DJ get over on me. And then what happens is there's this girl, and he's like, she's on stage behind all the contestants. So it's like 4 guys that look just like Robert Smith and me. And he starts going, okay, who thinks contestant number 1 looks like Robert Smith? And she puts her hand over that person's head, and everyone starts cheering. Contestant number 2, number 3. So when she gets to me, everyone goes crazy. I start leaning out, high-fiving everybody. It was hilarious. And so, lo and behold, the judge was an applause meter. And so because I was up there and it was so ridiculous and everybody thought it was insane that I'm up there trying to look like Robert Smith, I ended up winning. And so I have photos of me on the stage with the 4 Robert Smiths, right? with the Cure, me and the Cure. And then the woman who was running their regional fanzine, the Cure actual fan club, did an article on it and wrote it up and sent me a copy of it. So I actually have pretty well documented. Yeah,
we got to send copies of that and then this record.
That's what I'm saying. So that was that was a long time ago. That's probably 25 years ago or more. Yeah.
Mixed Up was 92.
Yeah. It would have been whenever that album dropped.
Yeah. Wow.
So so that's you just put me on Mike, man. I'm looking good, man. That looks great.